In the world of basketball, individual greatness is measured in MVPs, how many you have, and how great that MVP season or seasons was. So today, Fadeaway ranks every NBA MVP from worst to first since 2000. Disclaimer, none of these MVPs are actually trash. They're all great in their own right. But if I'm doing a ranking, somebody got to go first and somebody has to go last. And at number 15, we got our guy Steve Nash. During the 04-05 season, Nash won the MVP. Now, if you're just looking at the numbers, you might not see why this season stands out, as Nash's scoring ability wasn't necessarily still in the spotlight. I mean, dude only averaged 15.5 points per game. But the beauty of Nash's game came with the gifts he was giving out, as he led the league with 11.5 assists per game, and he was extremely close to getting into the 50-40-90 club, all while literally leading a revolution with the 7 seconds or less Phoenix Suns, coached by the infamous Mike D'Antoni. They were literally turning basketball traditions upside down: fast-paced, high-octane, high-scoring, and space-creating. And what can we say, man? It worked. The Suns ended that season with 62 wins, and Nash's impact on their net rating was insane, boosting it by almost 15 points per 100 possessions. But as we know, Nash won the MVP in back-to-back seasons, although Kobe got robbed in my opinion. But Phoenix was the 2 seed while the Lakers were way down to 7, so I get it. Ironically, they're still there to this day. In Steve Nash's second MVP season, his effective field goal percentage skyrocketed from 55.7 to an impressive 58.3%. And get this, despite missing his partner in crime Amari Stoudemire for most of the season, Nash still managed to increase his scoring average from 15.5 points per game to 18.8, while still averaging double-digit assists at 10.5 per game. And I'll say this to summarize his MVPs. His first MVP was basically Nash arriving on the scene. Yeah, he'd been in the league for a while. He played with Dirk on the Mavericks, but he hadn't arrived yet. His first MVP, he arrived on the scene, shaking things up, had a whole new style of play. And his second season was more like the sequel. Like, it was still good, but not quite as groundbreaking. Yeah, Nash put up some pretty good individual stats, but the Suns only won 54 games, and Nash's on-court net rating boost wasn't quite as sky-high as it was before. And at number 14, we got our guy Dirk Nowitzki. And his MVP season was a little different, to say the least. A wild ride with a plot twist that, let's be real, none of us saw coming. Nowitzki was at the top of the world, leading his Mavericks to the most regular season wins in franchise history with 67, and securing the top seed while averaging 24 points and almost 9 rebounds per game. But just when things seemed perfect, just when it seemed like the Mavs are on the way to winning their first championship, the We Believe Golden State Warriors arrived on the scene and sent them boys packing in the first round. I guess it just wasn't meant to be. But Dirk still got his flowers, making history as the first European-born player to claim the MVP. And unlike Steve Nash, Dirk actually joined the 50-40-90 club for the season, a rare feat for a 7-footer. But speaking of 7-footers, our guy at number 13, Joel Embiid. After losing out on the MVP award the previous season to the Joker, Embiid finally secured his first MVP with an incredible 2022 season. Embiid put up a massive double-double, averaging 33 points and 10 boards per game, leading the league in scoring and anchoring the 76ers defense. Philly won 54 games, ranked 3rd in defense, and advanced to the second round of the playoffs, where he and Harden basically wet the bed as they were defeated by the Celtics in 6 games. But all in all, Embiid's performances prove that the best players are still dominated by big men. Just ask the Joker. And next up at number 12 is a guy who was never big by height, but huge by heart. A guy who single-handedly dragged the Philadelphia 76ers to glory, Allen Iverson. Buddy was a straight bucket if there ever was one. During his MVP season in 2000, Iverson led the league in points and steals at 31 points and almost 3 steals per game, while leading his team to an impressive 56 wins. He was doing all this while playing over 40 minutes a game. But here's the kicker. Yeah, Iverson's stats look just as flashy as his game, but when you really look at the numbers, his shooting percentage wasn't really that good. Now, some would say that Philly could have had more success if Iverson shared the ball more, but personally, I disagree. I mean, he managed to drag this Sixers team all the way to the finals, with dudes like Jermaine Jones, Tyrone Hill, and an over-the-hill Dikembe Mutombo in their starting lineup. Iverson literally had to drop almost 50 points just to squeak by and get Game 1 against prime Kobe and Shaq in the finals. But he wasn't the only one dragging his team to glory. Our guy at number 11 did the same thing. The big ticket, Kevin Garnett, wasn't just leading his team or dragging his team to W's. He literally carried them boys to a franchise record 58 wins, averaging 24 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 blocks, and almost 2 steals per game, and securing the MVP. If that ain't carrying, then I guess I don't know what it is. And let's not forget the competition, battling against the likes of Tim Duncan, Dirk Nowitzki, and Chris Webber on a nightly basis. This was peak basketball for the power forward position. But speaking of peak, cracking the top 10 is a guy that peaked during his MVP season, in my opinion. Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose and the Chicago Bulls were a literal force, winning 62 games, averaging 25 points and 7 assists per game, with a plus 8.0 net rating. Interesting though, the team kept a plus 5.8 net rating even when Rose wasn't on the court, setting him apart from other players. One can say that Rose's achievement as the youngest MVP in league history is a big deal. And it is, as he was the driving force behind a team that had serious title aspirations. But they had a lot of success with him off the floor as well. So it just goes to show you how important team building really is. But let's be clear, Derrick Rose MVP was well deserved. Winning it in his third year in the league is something that may never be topped. And if so, not by many. But speaking of third, the next guy on the list won the MVP in his third best season, highlighting how much team success can influence individual accolades. Coming in at number 9 is my guy Kobe Bryant, and he was as dominant in 2007 as he had been in the previous 2 seasons, where his scoring averages were higher ironically. But when Pau Gasol joined the Lakers, their win total shot up from 42 to 57. All of a sudden, voters felt more comfortable voting for Kobe. Nasty work by the media. Nobody wanted to crown Kobe the MVP the previous 2 seasons when he averaged 31 and 35 points per game respectively on the 45 and 37 and 42 and 40 Lakers team the 2 years prior. But when the revamped Lakers ramped up 57 wins in 2007, suddenly Kobe was MVP material, although his scoring average dropped from 31 points per game to 28. Interesting. The twist, though, is that Kobe wasn't the best player in the league anymore. LeBron had claimed that crown in most people's eyes, and KG and Dirk Nowitzki were just as impactful. Kobe led the league in total points and field goal attempts, but that was about it. Overall, though, it was a historic season for Kobe, cementing his legacy in the league, winning his only MVP, which is a shame because, in my opinion, he should have had at least 3. But coming in at number 8 is a guy that became one of only 10 players to ever score 2,500 points in a single season. None other than Slim Reap, the real MVP, Kevin Durant. During his lone MVP season in 2013, KD averaged 32 points, 7 rebounds, and 5.5 assists on 50% shooting. Now imagine what he would have accomplished if the Oklahoma City Thunder had been more efficient with their offense and ball movement. You might think sharing the court with future MVP Russell Westbrook would detract from KD's impact, but Russ only played 46 games that season. Plus, the Thunder went 25 and 11 without him, proving KD was more than capable of holding down the fort. And when they were both on the court, the Thunder's net rating was a solid 7.6. However, when KD took charge without Russ, their net rating shot up to a plus 8.5, showing KD thrived more on his own. Durant's true shooting percentage of 63.5% was the highest ever for a player, averaging at least 32 points per game. He also knocked down 192 threes and 703 free throws. As for advanced stats, Durant's 2013 season showed the 8th best plus-minus, 5th best VORP value over replacement player. Not to mention he led the Thunder to the conference finals before losing in 6 games to the eventual NBA champion San Antonio Spurs. And coming in at number 7, I must say, is my least favorite player on this entire list. But this list isn't about favorites. This is about stats and impact. And James Harden certainly fits the mold. During his lone MVP season in 2017, the Beard averaged 30 points, 5 rebounds, and almost 9 assists per game, as he led the Houston Rockets to a franchise record 65 wins with a plus 10.0 net rating with Harden on the floor, crowning him the best in the league. Even when he took a breather, Houston still held its own, outscoring opponents by almost 6 points per 100 possessions. Although Harden's 36.1 usage rate was just behind Chris Paul, he outshined his current teammate in efficiency, boasting a 61.9 true shooting percentage. Harden led the league with a player efficiency rating of 29.8, 15.4 win shares, and 11.0 BPM box plus minus. The Rockets were the first team to ever attempt more threes than twos in a season, a feat made by Harden's ability to command attention as probably the greatest isolation scorer and pick-and-roll specialist ever. Harden made history as the first player to average at least 10 three-point attempts and 10 free throw attempts per game. If you just listen to the stats I just gave you, you're probably thinking Harden should be much higher on this list. But if you watch the games during his MVP season, he was great, don't get me wrong. The step-back threes were insane and all that, and he got to the free throw line a lot. But his ability to manipulate the refs and to call him fouls was something not everyone enjoyed to watch. But then again, the Beard style of play isn't everyone's cup of tea, but his impact is still felt in today's NBA. Coming in at number 6 is a guy that basically had no business being what he became. Giannis Antetokounmpo deserves a lot of praise for his back-to-back MVP season, especially when highly respected draft analysts compared him to maybe becoming a Nick Batum and couldn't even spell his name properly. Check draftnet.com for that. His 2018 season was nothing short of sensational. He was only the second player in history to average at least 27 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists in the season, while being the runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year. He also joined an exclusive club as the 6th player to average 27 points with a 64.0 true shooting percentage. Only Steph Curry achieved such a high shooting percentage, alongside a usage rate of over 32%. Milwaukee's net rating surged to a plus 9.4 when Giannis was on the court, proving just how crucial he was to their winning formula. In short, Giannis' 2018 season was a transformative journey that should be celebrated for his legendary impact. The next season, though, he took his stardom to new heights, leading the Bucks to yet another powerhouse run. He lit up the court, averaging 29.5 points, 13.6 boards, and almost 6 assists per game, solidifying his title as the MVP's most unstoppable force since Shaquille in his prime. Giannis' MVP season was all about showcasing his extraordinary athleticism, top-notch defense, and versatile game-changing abilities. In other words, the freak is just different. But we can't talk about different without mentioning one of the greatest seasons ever. Cracking the top 5 is the guy that became the first person since Oscar Robertson in 1962 to average a triple-double for an entire season. Russell Westbrook averaged 31 points, 10 boards, and 10 assists en route to his lone MVP season. You could point out and say he was stat padding, inefficient, and ball dominant, but he did average a triple-double, led the league in scoring, and carrying OKC's pedestrian offense to the playoffs. When Westbrook wasn't on the court, OKC net rating plummeted to a minus 7.3, highlighting just how much he carried the team. Only LeBron's 08 Cavs were more reliant on their best player. But the historic season ended with the first round exit in 5 games to the Harden-led Houston Rockets, which is why I can't put his MVP season any higher than 5, although it was a season that most of us never seen before, unless you were around to watch the Big O way back in the day. Coming in at number 4 is the greatest passing big man we've ever seen, a true point center. Of course, I am talking about the Joker, Nikola Jokic. He became the first center since Shaquille O'Neal in 1999 to win the MVP award, all while putting up 26.4 points, 10.8 rebounds, and 8.3 assists per game. The Joker dazzled with his incredible passing ability and all-around game, leading the Nuggets to the 3rd seed in the Western Conference. His next season was just as fire, continuing his MVP level streak and leading the Nuggets to another strong season. He averaged 27 points, 13 rebounds, and almost 8 assists per game, showing off his exceptional passing skill set. And while the Nuggets racked up 48 wins, they unfortunately faced a tough defeat in the first round of the playoffs against the Golden State Warriors. Still, Jokic's all-around brilliance made him a true highlight on the court and kept the Nuggets fan excited all season long. He's so good. People think he should have won the award last year, and he might win it this year. Although me personally, I favor SGA. Coming in at number 3 is a guy that dominated the NBA in the most basic way possible. A true testament of how important fundamentals are. Tim Duncan was the undisputed king on the court during the 2001 NBA season. He wasn't just playing basketball, he lived on the court, clocking in a grand total of 3,329 minutes of game time. I mean, talk about living and breathing the game. Like, no, seriously. He was leading the league in buckets, freebies, and rebounds. Check, and check again. Dropping a career best 25.5 points per game. And let's not forget how good he was defensively, while dishing out assists and blocking shots like nobody's business. It wasn't just his stats, though. Duncan's impact was felt across the league with 4 straight all-defensive first-team nods. It was the nightmare of every opponent's offensive game plan. And guess what? The first time was so nice, you know what I'm about to say. He had to do it twice. Duncan won the MVP again in 2003 with over 1,000 rebounds and enough blocks to build a defensive wall, and of course cemented his name as the greatest power forward ever. Although personally, I like Kevin Garnett, but the numbers don't lie. Tim Duncan is the greatest power forward ever. Now we shift from the greatest power forward ever to the greatest shooter ever. Coming in at number 2, of course, is Steph Curry. During the 2014 season, Steph gave us a taste of the magic that was yet to come. He shattered records with 286 three-pointers, earning his first All-NBA first-team honor, leading the league in steals and became the shortest player to average at least 23 points per game while boasting a true shooting percentage of 63%. He transformed the Warriors from an exciting playoff team that was fun to watch to legitimate title contenders. The team set a franchise record with 67 wins and secured its first championship since 1975, and while that championship doesn't necessarily impact his MVP discussions, it does in my rankings, and it shows how much Curry boosted his team. I mean, just check some of the stats. The Warriors had a minus 3.5 net rating when Curry was off the court, which then skyrocketed to a plus 16.3 when he was on the court. That is an impressive 19.8 swing. Curry's BPM box plus minus of 9.9 may seem modest compared to his insane 11.9 in his unanimous MVP season, but it still led the league. Steph was already an all-star in 2013, but 2014 was the start of his prime. His next season, though, was legit magical. With 73 wins, the Warriors made history, making Curry's campaign truly legendary. Steph's performances lifted the Warriors to new heights, boasting youthful energy and depth. Draymond Green's defensive prowess was unmatched, of course. Klay Thompson was on fire, and Andre Iguodala just filled in all the gaps. But Steph was the heartbeat of the team, leading them to a plus 17.7 net rating when he was on the court, and watching them struggle to a minus 5.4 net rating when he rested. The net swing of 23.1 points is the largest of any MVP season. And of course, he knocked down an incredible 402 three-pointers, setting an NBA record, shooting a ridiculous 45.4%, the best rate of any MVP. His 66.9 true shooting percentage was the highest ever achieved in a season, with at least 1,000 field goals. He joined the 50-40-90 club and led the league in scoring, making history as the first unanimous MVP. Now that brings us to number 1. Now, who could actually be number 1? Who's worthy of the top spot? Well, of course, how can it be any other player than the 4-time MVP, 4-time Finals MVP himself, LeBron James? But the season in particular we're talking about is 2012, where LeBron averaged 27 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists. LeBron shot over 36% from beyond the arc, but took the fewest three-point attempts of his career and focused more on his mid-range shots from 16 to 23 feet out. This was the only season LeBron led the league in defensive box plus minus, earning a 4th place finish in Defensive Player of the Year voting. That is literally insane to me. But he was first team all defense. Meanwhile, Marc Gasol was the Defensive Player of the Year, but wasn't first team all defense. So in other words, the media robbed Bron of the greatest season ever. He would have had League MVP, Finals MVP, and Defensive Player of the Year. But I guess 2 out of 3 isn't so bad. His next season was no different, winning the MVP again. Although his average was down a bit at 26.8 points per game, his efficiency and control on the court hit new heights. And LeBron being LeBron combined his incredible athleticism with high basketball IQ for a spectacular season. Miami went on that wild 27-game winning streak, finishing the season 66-16. The Heat dominated their title defense and were far past the 2010-2011 struggles. He shattered the 40% three-point barrier, hitting a career-high 40.6% of his threes. and nailed 56.5% of his shots overall, with his true shooting percentage soaring to a career-high 64%. He set the modern era record by scoring at least 30 points while shooting 60% or better in 6 straight games. While some basketball legends like Kobe and Dirk play for the same team their whole career, others just aren't as fortunate. So if you want to see NBA legends on teams you forgot they played for, just click right here.